No,
Acres?
10 square acres, yeah.
I was gonna say, okay, you're right, though. It is under 10 square
We'll now
miles.
call to order the July 7th, 2025 Hayden City Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Ask everybody please silence their cell phones for the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, can we wait just 1 second?
Okay? Yes.
This is part of the public comments that we received today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. These will be some good sleep reading. Somebody from New York signed this.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Very good. Before we start, does anybody have any conflicts of interest this evening?
No.
No.
Okay. All right.
You might want to speak up because we have a loud audience.
I will do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Attendance?
Let's do attendance.
Attendance. Commissioner Erickson.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Morris.
Here.
Vice Chair Gibson.
Here.
And Chair Taylor.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we'll start with the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are action items. First, we have the approval of our P&Z Planning and Zoning Committee regular meeting minutes from May 19th, 2025. Oh, sorry. Pledge. Please stand for the pledge. I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Taylor, do you have one of the hearing devices that those folks who can't hear could potentially use?
Okay.
Thank you, Vonda.
So on the consent calendar, our first item of business is approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes from May 19th, 2025. And the approval of City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission joint special meeting minutes from June 30th, 2025. Any questions, concerns, additions?
Yes. I noticed that on the meeting minutes for the 19th, it showed me present, but then absent for the vote. So I'd like to get that changed.
Was that when, did you call in on that one?
You came in late to that one.
Oh, I missed it. Okay, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
You missed that vote.
Okay.
Anything else? I have a motion. Motion to approve the consent calendar as written.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Would you like to do the roll call on that? Or? Very good.
Hang on 1 second. To this. Commissioner Erickson.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Morris.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gibson.
Aye.
And Chair Taylor.
Aye. All right. First item is a public hearing. Donna, would you like to present?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight we're here for a public hearing. It's the PZE 250043, the Woodman subdivision. So just as a matter of background on the project site, the property was annexed in 2009 as a single-family residential, R1. And one of the conditions that was identified in that annexation agreement identified that TIA would be required for any development over 2 dwelling units per acre. And since that 2009 annexation, the city did an update to the 2040 Transportation Master Plan that effectively did all of that analysis. And they reviewed this area at a higher density than the 2 dwelling units per acre. Additionally, policy was adopted by the city council that was addressing when a TIA would be required, and the transportation infrastructure that would most likely be required along this project site, along both North Government Way and along North Lancaster, was constructed with a subdivision that went in directly west of this subdivision. The property today consists of undeveloped forest land. The request is being made by the applicant and engineer of record are Derek Huff and Eric Olson from Olson Engineering, who'll be presenting here tonight. And the owners are Ian and Rebecca Woodman. And this is proposed to be a single-phase subdivision to develop nearly 10 acres into 23 lots. And just to give this a bit of a location, it's the yellow box, and that's directly east of the Hayden Canyon First Edition subdivision, north of Emerald Estates and the subdivisions down here, and then south, not contiguous to Lancaster. So again, to give that a little bit better perspective, if you throw the area of the city limits on here, everything that's in pink is inside the city limits, and everything in green is in Kootenai County. Okay, with that, I will hand it over to the applicant. I think you know how to use that.
Good evening, everybody. Evening, Commission. Eric Olson, Olson Engineering. I've got Derek with me. The Woodmans are here this evening. And we're here to talk about the proposed Woodman subdivision. Donna kind of gave a pretty good description of the location of the project. So I'm going to move right into the map or the proposed subdivision plan here. We've got 22 lots, 22 building lots here, and one large remainder lot. Of the 22, I'd call 13 of them the minimum R1 lots, kind of in the 8250 square foot ballpark. And then there's 9 that are 9,000 square foot plus. So a couple larger ones scattered here and on the corner as well. And the remainder parcel is 3.8 acres, not intended to be developed during Ian and Becky's lifetime. Zoning, this is zoned single-family residential, as is the property to the east, also owned by the Woodmans where they reside. And then we've got Marks Ranch, Stone Creek, more single-family residential there. And Canyon's obviously got a diverse range of building sizes. These tend to be smaller than what we're proposing here, so it's kind of an infill project transitioning from smaller lots to the larger lots that are over here in the Marks Ranch subdivision and beyond. Let's see. Site's very flat. It's forested, out of concern of wildlife habitat loss. We did meet with Fish and Game. City staff was at that meeting as well. After we told them that there was 3.8 acres to be preserved, they basically said that they couldn't ask for more than that, and somewhat counterintuitively advised that if we were going to keep trees in the main portion of the subdivision, that the 20 to 30-year-old as opposed to the old growth would be the better ones to keep. The old growth having potential for falling down in a windstorm. So public roads and utilities have been stubbed to the property from Hayden Canyon First Edition. You can kind of think of this as finishing off that project, looping the roads and the utilities. There was some consideration to, do we need to connect up to Lancaster or Emerald Estates? And ultimately, the Woodmans decided to keep it at this size, maintain the buffer, not create these connections. So yes, there will be a little bit more traffic funneled through that Hayden Canyon neighborhood, but no additional cut-through traffic from Emerald Estates and Lancaster. We are proposing a standard 36-foot wide City of Hayden road. That's the width that allows for parking on both sides of the streets. Sidewalks on both sides, swales on both sides. That's where we'll be managing our stormwater. Everything's gonna be built and funded by the developer. And again, we're connecting to existing dead-end roads. Snowplow drivers should like that. They won't have to turn around. Water service is going to be provided by Avondale Irrigation District. They've provided a will serve letter. Again, improvements are going to be funded by the developer, and with looping that water line should improve water circulation in the vicinity of the project on Avondale's system. Sanitary sewer is going to be City of Hayden providing the collection system, and Harbs the treatment, as like everything else. The Woodmans have first approached us in 2022 to start looking at this project, and have been waiting patiently for capacity to be developed in the H6 sewer basin. That is our most recent update from the city engineer, said that those projects are on track to be finished this year. We don't anticipate a plat being recorded this year, and definitely not any vertical construction until 2026. So I think the timing works out with when we're presenting this. Utility easements on both sides of the right-of-way for continuation of power, gas, and communications facilities. Quick stats here. Proposed subdivision density is 2.3 lots per acre. Just a little bit above half of what Hayden Canyon First Edition is to the west. Again, that 3.2 acres is planned to be preserved with the existing vegetation. And we are not asking for any special setbacks or variances on the standards. Couple relevant quotes that we thought were relevant from the comp plan. City of Hayden should encourage the development of land within the corporate limits of Hayden prior to annexation of adjacent areas. So this is an infill subdivision. It's been in the city since 2009, and they've kind of waited for utilities to get there and roads to get there, and they're there. So they feel like it's time to develop the piece that they want to develop. Improve ped, bike, and vehicular safety along streets. We'll be looping those dead-end roads and creating additional sidewalks in the neighborhood. And the last one there, coordinate the timely development of efficient, effective, and environmentally sound sewer, water, and other utility infrastructure servicing the community, assuring costs of development are shared equitably, and accommodate for ongoing growth of Hayden. So again, they've waited, and they'll be paying impact fees to mitigate impacts to traffic, parks, etc. And that's all for my presentation. Stand for questions.
there any plans to leave any of the existing trees on the residential lots, or just be primarily in the buffer zone or the?
There are no specific plans to leave any or remove any. It's, that's what the condition is right there. I think it's gonna depend on who ultimately ends up building on these lots, whether it's that builder, that person who buys the lot. They don't know, but it's their position that they'd like to keep it kind of a clean slate there, like anybody else would have when developing a subdivision. They feel like leaving that 3.8 acres is pretty substantial offering.
Commissioners, please remember, should the applicant choose not to rebut public testimony, this is your only opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. So if you have any questions, now is the time.
I'm sure we'll be rebutting.
I just had to let you know.
Okay, no further questions?
No. Yeah, no questions yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we open the public hearing, part, correct? Thank you.
So the staff analysis is on your tablets. And this is really a summary of the staff analysis, not a rewrite of the staff analysis. So as we're kind of perusing through that, if you have questions, or at the end, if you have questions, please feel free. So subdivisions have 8 standards of approval. And so as you're looking at a subdivision, you have to determine whether or not those standards of approval have been met. So the first 2 have to do with infrastructure development, and whether the first one is whether it can be constructed to function in a manner that promotes the public health, safety, and welfare. And the second one is that the infrastructure can be constructed and located in an orderly manner that accommodates ongoing maintenance needs when taking into consideration co-location of other infrastructure. And so we kind of take those 2 and review them all the way through the staff analysis with respect to infrastructure. So the third standard of approval identifies that infrastructure is or it will be in compliance with applicable city, state, and federal policies and regulations. So with respect to the water requirements, a will serve letter was received by Avondale Irrigation District in April of 2025. And Northern Lakes Fire Protection District provided comments in May of 2025 for subdivision construction, building construction, access points, and response times. And any water infrastructure that goes in is required to abide by city codes, standards, and policies, as well as DEQ standards and policies and the water jurisdictions policies. Sewer requirements, a will serve letter was provided by the city in January of 2025. The project site is located in the H6 sewer basin, which is currently under construction. And it's currently being serviced by a temporary connection to H2, which is getting full. So it is required to have that H6 solution fixed. And as Mr. Olson did identify, the Public Works Department had stated that those projects for the H6 lift station, gravity line, and pressure lines are on target to finish the end of this calendar year, prior to the end of this calendar year. The Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board provided agency comments in May of 2025, and they didn't have any additional comments or requests for this subdivision. Conditions C and D talk about stormwater and snow storage requirements. Stormwater and snow storage shall be reviewed at the time of the construction plan review in accordance with Title 8 in the Hayden City Codes. And E talks about provisions or have not been made for the streets. And so as was identified, these two streets going east were anticipated at some time to continue to the east. And as proposed, this will loop both Viceroy and San Myrtle together and continue that as a loop. There aren't any cul-de-sacs or eyebrows as proposed. So as Mr. Olson did state, snowplow removal is easier on those corners without having those additional pockets of removal. There is no access to Mimosa or proposed access to Mimosa to the south within that county kind of jurisdictional area. And there is no access proposed or in the conditions allowed north onto Lancaster. This is a private driveway access easement to these lots. And so it's not proposed to have access north onto Lancaster Road through those county lots. F, provisions have or have not been made for parks and open space that are consistent with the adopted Parks Master Plan as amended and that satisfy the city's requirements. So park impact fees shall be collected at the time of building permit issuance. And then the sidewalk connectivity as proposed to the subdivision to the west will continue through this for that pedestrian access, non-vehicular access. Geohazard shall be reviewed during construction plan review. Mailbox location shall be located on those internal public street. We'll have to kind of figure out the determination of where that mailbox is going to go so that if you have to have a turnout to allow safe access to those, that will be part of the construction plans. And then again, access is reviewed in accordance to our access standards. And there is no access being proposed or allowed to either Mimosa Lane or Lancaster Road. And then condition number 7 says that the area proposed for the subdivision is or is not zoned for the proposed use, and the use conforms to other requirements found in the code. So single-family residential R1 zone provides for the classic Hayden neighborhood where single-family homes on smaller lots are permitted. Accessory dwelling units are permitted, but two-family dwellings are not. And that's only, again, accessory dwelling units are only allowed if they meet the design standards for an accessory dwelling units, and not all lots do. Building setbacks and minimum lot sizes for all R1 lots in the city of Hayden is 8,250 square feet as a minimum lot size. And as Mr. Olson pointed out, a portion of these meet that 8,250 minimum lot size, but a portion of them are larger than that. I think the largest one that's not the 3 acre is like 16,000 square feet. So it's a pretty good size difference in there. The front setbacks for all R1s, the front and rear are 25 feet so that the house can't sit any closer to their rear lot line than 25 feet. And the side yard setbacks are 10 feet. And then those flanking streets, those ones on the corner lots that have flanking streets, they have a 15-foot setback. If you put in an accessory structure, it has to sit 35 feet back from the front, 5 feet from the side and the rear, and 15 feet from the flanking street. On page 8 of your staff review and on page 26 in the appendix, page 8 has a subset of the goals and page 9 has a subset of the policies, and then in the appendix on page 26, all of the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan are listed. The ones that staff felt were most appropriate here is that you maintain goal 3 is a maintenance of an attractive and balanced mix of land uses, densities, and housing types, ensuring the future character of the community. Goal number 4 is that you should encourage development of land within the corporate limits of the city of Hayden. Goal 5 is to protect and preserve and strengthen the vitality and stability of the existing neighborhoods. Goal number 8 is to ensure that development can be serviced by existing public facilities or extended to adequately serve the development. Goal 9 says to ensure adequate park, recreation, open space are provided and maintained for the continued enjoyment of the community. Goal 10 is to adequately site essential public facilities and utilities without compromising the neighborhood integrity and character. Goal 14 is to protect, preserve, and be stewards of our environment's natural areas and resources. And goal 15 is to coordinate the timely development of efficient, effective, and environmentally sound sewer, water, and other utility infrastructure servicing the community, assuring that the costs of the development are shared equitably and accommodate for ongoing growth of Hayden. Policy number 1 talks about that the city should judiciously evaluate the opportunity to provide sewer, water, and other services within the corporate limits and plan of those services. Policy number 2, development should be compatible with the land use chapter of the comp plan and fiscally responsible. Policy number 4, the city should evaluate community-wide impacts from development and then identify their needs for public facilities and utilities. And policy 8, again, talks about that improvement of pedestrian and bicycle and vehicular safety along the city streets. Policy 13 is, again, that growth of, should be accompanied by the development of infrastructure and the public services, utilities, and preservation of open space. Policy 14 is coordinating and supporting local water and irrigation districts in their efforts to balance growth with water supplies. Policy 16 is ensuring levels of public services that meet the, or adequate and meet the needs of the community. And policy 18 is to minimize the financial and operational impacts resulting from road improvement projects and maintenance. So then the last standard of approval identifies, how is that extension going to happen, and in accordance with the code standards and plans, and who's going to mitigate any of those improvements. And so all improvements shall be required of the developer to include infrastructure development and dedication, extension of that infrastructure per the adopted city codes and standards and plans as required. So in the agency notices went out to 28 agencies. See page 9 in your analysis. And the public agencies that responded, for the most part, really had no comments or concerns. And those included Idaho Transportation Department, Kootenai County Community Development, because remember, we butt up with this project with Kootenai County in 2 spots, both south and north. So we were looking to see if they had any comments or concerns. Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, Idaho Department of Water Resources, Avondale Irrigation District, Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board, all really responded with no additional comments or concerns at this time. Panhandle Health District reviews all subdivision plats that come through the city, and they have an application and fees that are received when you get ready to final plat, and they look at where the dry wells are located. That's part of their purview. Northern Lakes Fire and Avondale Irrigation District work with access requirements, fire hydrant locations, how that road development is occurring. That's all part of those conditions of approval. Coeur d'Alene Airport, in their response, identified the noise related to their primary runway that is over a portion of this piece of property, and the proximity to that corridor. They asked originally for an navigation easement, which we went back and said the title report recognized that an navigation easement had already been recorded. So they identified that they wanted it to be referenced on the plat. And then Idaho Fish and Game, in their response back, requested that trees be retained to provide shade, shelter, and wildlife habitat. Staff did, as Mr. Olson identified, staff did meet with Idaho Fish and Game, our Public Works Department, city engineer, myself, Derek was there, and Merritt Horseman from Idaho Fish and Game were there to try to figure out what exactly his comment meant, because we take that very seriously, comments that we're trying to figure out how to meet that requirement and not over meet it, what really is the question. He did say 20 to 30-year-old trees are the healthiest trees, and they do provide the best habitat that he was looking for in his response. And so there is a condition that we've kind of reworked at the end. The kind of gets to that point that we'll be reviewing kind of what those trees look like that they're looking for preservation of as part of that comment at construction plan submittal. So in the board book, as part of the memo that came out to the Planning and Zoning Commission, we took all of the comments that we'd received up through last Thursday, just before the 4th of July weekend, and compiled all of those comments into the public comments section on board book. There was quite a lengthy, I can't remember how many pages, but it's quite long, of the comments that were received, so you had that available for review. And then between last Thursday at whatever time that was that I got those last uploaded, and this morning, we received 2 more sections of comments. The first 2 were from Andrew and Kelsey Lamanna, and you have a 1-sheet page that I just passed out tonight so that they were part of the record. They're both residents. They had concerns regarding traffic noise, cell tower and internet service that may already struggle with growth. Again, they wanted preservation of open space and didn't want to see a loss of habitat. Then the second item that you received is a petition. I walked into my staff meeting and emptied my box and came out of my staff meeting this morning, and it's a copy of information. I don't know who actually submitted it, and it's a copy not with originals. So I did bring it to our legal counsel to see if it was admissible before I handed it out to you, and we did make it available to the applicant as well this evening. It appears that a petition was started on change.org, and the first 5 paragraphs that you see on the front cover appear to be what was on that website. And then it appears that they printed in the next 2 pages, whoever had listed their names on that website is what appears to be there. And then the next 4 pages are signatures that appear to be all handwritten. And I'm going to turn that over kind of to Fonda to answer to petitions, because we don't generally get them. That's not what we get as part of the public notice process.
Appropriate public comment in response to a land use application is written, and it's required to name who the commenter is, what their location of residence is, and what their purpose, whether they're in support, in objection, or neutral, and then what their thoughts are in relationship to the application. And so petitions in opposition to land use applications aren't something that you normally see. We did go ahead tonight, just because it was received today, make it part of the record. It's the commission's responsibility to decide how much weight to give to that petition, if any. That's your choice. You're the decision-making body. Actually, you're the recommending body. The decision-making body will be city council. So it is not a proper petition from a legal perspective, but it is part of the record for your consideration.
So then beginning on, I think page 20, but I think that's probably an old number. So we have the staff recommended conditions of approval. I think they're probably like page 11, 10 or 11. And they're summarized here, just really summarized. General conditions of approval for subdivision identify that conditions provided here are in addition to any annexation agreement requirements. Any development must meet these, as well as the subdivision requirements of Hayden City Code policies and plans. Dedications and easements as required must be on the plat, and if there are any joint stormwater or other required easements, those also will be on the plat or referenced on the plat by separate document. Permits from outside agencies could include Coeur d'Alene Airport, Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board, Avondale Irrigation District, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality. They review all sewer main and water main extensions. Idaho Department of Water Resources in relationship to water infrastructure, Northern Lakes Fire Protection District. Oh, I got interrupted. This is called starting a PowerPoint and leaving for a meeting and coming back and going, "Rrr." So Post Falls Highway District is nowhere near out here, so no comments there. And Panhandle Health District. This approval runs with the land. Again, those lot accesses are only from the internal roads and not from Mimosa and not from Lancaster. Construction plan requirements summarized is that the construction plans submittal shall be in accordance with Hayden City Code Title 12, Chapter 6. The local street section is an ST 111 and ST 111A, and there's a little slight derivation of that where it runs into Hayden Canyon Phase 1E, and so there'll be a little bit of a transition area there to line the sidewalks up in the street section. Erosion control measures shall be identified with the construction plan submittal. No cross-country sewer alignments are allowed, and I don't believe that there are any that are proposed. The developer shall use the City of Hayden sanitary sewer in accordance with the adopted sewer master plan. And again, those U.S. Postal Service mailbox location shall be identified with the construction plan submittal. The landscaping plans shall include detailed plans conforming to the requirements of city code for the entire development and construction plans for required subdivision improvements for review and approval. Anywhere that they disturb the area, they need to put out dry land grass or another approved BMP to stabilize that topsoil so it doesn't become a blowing wind dust hazard. Individual lots shall have dry land grass mix applied on the lot, again, to keep the topsoil on the lot. Until it's hydroseeded, the installation of the irrigation system goes in, required landscaping. It all happens at the time of building permit, and that all gets developed. Street frontage, so along all street frontages, that shall be included with the landscape plan submittal. But the actual street tree, we don't want put in the ground until, again, that irrigation is in there to support that tree placement. So those will happen at time of building permit as well. Requirements of the final plat that the right-of-way shall either be dedicated on the plat or by separate document at the time of the final plat. And then all utility easements required and or as identified on the typical section shall be granted on the plat or by separate document at the time of final plat. So an easement, a utility easement that could be under a separate document is if you had like a Spectrum Charter, internet box, for example. It would not go in the normal utility easement because if it does, nobody else can go in the utility easement. So it would get pushed back into its own easement or its own tract, separate from the standard one behind the sidewalk, as an example of what that means. And then requirements requested by other agencies. The developer should comply with the requirements from Northern Lakes Fire Protection District. The navigation easement requested by the Coeur d'Alene Airport shall be referenced on all final plats of the subdivision. And then the developer shall provide a plan to preserve trees for wildlife habitat per the response from Idaho Fish and Game as a component of the subdivision construction plan submittal. So the Planning and Zoning Commission in their findings and recommendations for this, you could move to recommend the approval, finding that it has met the conditions and it meets the standards of the Hayden City Code, those 8 standards of approval after you've received the testimony here from the public hearing and you've made your deliberations. You can motion to continue this to some date in the future, or you can recommend denial of the Woodman subdivision. But if you recommend denial, finding that it doesn't meet one of the 8 standards, you have to list the reasons why you got to that point. Which slide would you like me to leave up?
Standards, maybe? Or the standards?
I can't fit all 8 standards on the same page, but everybody in the audience that has a flow chart, their hand owns the standards of approval. If we need more, we can print more copies.
We'll leave that up for now.
You want this one, or you want a map?
Old map.
Do you want that map?
Yeah,
Perfect.
thank you.
It's on page 10, or, page 10.
No. A Fonda?
Yeah.
Now I open back to the,
Yeah, you should go, but your script should have public hearing.
I do. And so anyone who wants to offer comments regarding the subject case, please submit a completed form located on the table by the entrance doors. The forms must have your name, address, date, and whether you want to testify in support of, opposed to, or are neutral. Anyone planning to speak must do so at the podium so your remarks can be heard in the recording system. All questions and comments will be directed to the commission, not the applicant. The applicant will have the opportunity to answer questions and offer a rebuttal after all public testimony is completed. All speakers will need to state their name and address for the record before they begin speaking. I will call first those supporting the application, then those uncommitted, and finally those opposed to the application. Please note the commission is not here to answer questions.
Chair Taylor, are there anybody else out here that have forms to fill out they'd like to?
If anyone wants to speak that has not filled out a form, please do so now.
A gentleman who just left said that his questions were already answered, and so he's withdrawing his comment form, and his name is Zip.
Zip, Z-I-P.
Last name Zibidin. Sorry if I got that wrong, but. Zip? Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's,
That's in there?
yeah, that's the only one that's neutral.
Okay.
The rest are-
So, okay. So all of our speakers tonight are opposed. What's our time? And you'll have a 5-minute time limit to speak. We will put up a card when you get to 1 minute. So please finish your comments prior to the 5 minutes expiring, because we will have to cut you off at 5 minutes. Thank you. And also ask you refrain from any cheering, clapping, or booing, as this is a public hearing, and so a little decorum would be appreciated. Thank you very much. First up is Deb Lumpley. And you wish to speak, and you are against the proposal.
Yeah, the other side
Yeah,
is first.
I think, for it.
For it.
For you. Oh,
We have no for and no neutral. We had one neutral who was,
got it, okay.
I didn't think I'd be first, but I'm happy to be here. This is my first city council meeting, planning meeting, so thanks for having us. And thank you guys for serving in this way, and I know it's a big job and I wouldn't want it. And
you
thank you
please
guys for
state-
coming.
We need your
State
name
your
and your
name and
address.
Deb Lampley, and I live in Emerald Estates. Of course, I have to say I oppose it because I live in the cutest neighborhood of all time, and I see it changing a lot with traffic already. We are in a, pretty protected area back there, but Buckles runs, right in front of our community and right to government, which goes from 40 miles an hour to 35 miles an hour around Buckles, then finally to 25 in Hayden. That is a very dangerous trek. If you're ever on Buckles trying to take a left going south on government, doesn't matter what time of day it is, and I mean, we can all sit here and talk for hours about how bad traffic is, but I have seen several accidents on the corner of Wyoming and government. My daughter was hit on the corner of Buckles and government. It is like trying to get your car out there is just tonight with my neighbors. It's like, oh, I gotta go, it's dangerous. And I guess my comment number one is the traffic with this development is going to be increased. And I would really like to see more provisions being made for the safety of the citizens in these neighborhoods. We have Rocking R, we have Pine Tree, we have Emerald, we have other subdivisions below us. They all use these pathways because that's what we have available. And, it's just gonna get harder and harder to get out on those main roads. And again, they're fast-moving roads. I'm glad it's not 55, but it's scary. And if any of you have kids, and you know what I'm talking about. It's hard enough to teach them to drive, but then to teach them how to go when it's safe and when it's not, it's very dangerous. So that's my first comment, is I'd like for there to be a lot of thought on how we can really preserve the safety of the citizens in these neighborhoods and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make us feel like you care that we're protected there. I think if the development goes in, I sure would feel a lot better if there's something to address the safety of the drivers on these roads. So that's my first comment. And my second comment, I guess, is to the Woodlands? Woodman, sorry. It's a really cute name. Love your woods, and we love living there. We love living next to them. I just want to say thank you, I guess, for not pushing that through to Mimosa, up to Emerald, and I implore you to continue to preserve us in that little community, because it is the most precious neighborhood, highly walkable, with all the neighborhoods surrounding. They all come to Emerald and walk, and there are just, I don't know, hundreds of kids in that neighborhood. They are roaming the streets night and day. I mean, not night and day, but they're up late at night in the summer. They're playing tag, they're playing hide and seek. It's like living back in the 60s. It's such a cute neighborhood. Thank you for not pushing that through. Please, from the bottom of our hearts, we beg you to keep us safe in that little nook. We know growth is inevitable, but we feel very protected there right now, and we would really appreciate it to continue to grow our family there and not feel encroached upon too highly. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Lana Pfeiffer, and she is against.
Hi, I'm Lana Pfeiffer, and I live on Amethyst in Emerald Estates. I've lived there for 37 years, and my concern is that our neighborhood does not have any sidewalks, so we have to walk on the street with our animals, with our children, and Emerald has already become just like the Audubon for people that come into our neighborhood. There's no respect for those of us who can't get out of the way fast enough. And so the increase in the traffic through there, and on Government Way is a huge concern. There's gonna have to be lights put in somewhere just to continue the flow, because it's just way too heavy. So I've seen a lot more changes than Deb has. So just, thank you.
Scott Tracy is against.
How's it going? I live at 433 East Amethyst in Emerald Estates. So I had a long speech prepared, but I kind of shortened it. Glasses I can see, kind of see. Due to some recent discovery, I've been walking the neighborhood over the past week, because I just got a notice like a week ago that this was happening. Talking about the Woodman subdivision, many people I spoke to with all said the same thing, and I didn't bait them. It was kind of an ongoing thing. Mr. Woodman personally told them that he would protect and conserve the nature and protect the wildlife and never build or sell. That's why he put a $100,000 fence in. I'm gonna flip backwards. I just heard something from the engineer. 2022, he said Woodman approached him about the subdivision. Well, in 2022, I spoke with Ian. I said, why is there guys back there like putting ribbons on the fence? He goes, oh yeah, I'm thinking about connecting into the sewer. I said, you're not building back there, are you? Because I was like freaked out, right? And he goes, no, I'm not building back there. So just interesting that I had a message from him in 2022. So it was all plotted pretty much. So to protect wildlife and never build or sell his land, we were all given a false sense of security. This matter seems to be about making an already wealthy man wealthier. I had an interesting conversation with a man at an Emerald Estates block party on July 4th. He told me, you'll never win. You are wasting your time. I said, oh, are you a lawyer? And he goes, yes, I'm a landowner. I mean, I'm a land lawyer, land use lawyer. And I went, oh, wow. I just assumed you're a lawyer the way he kind of looked at me. He's probably in his 60s. And he said, you're wasting your time. And I said, you're an attorney? He said, yes, I'm a land use lawyer in Idaho. So I started thinking, why do we fight for anything in Hayden? Why do we go to these council meetings, these planning commission meetings, if these projects are gonna be rubber stamped anyway? I am pleading with the planning commission to not put the cart before the horse. the impact of this subdivision has not even been assessed. We don't even know the impact of the 1,500 homes that are gonna go all the way to Strayhorn that a lot of people don't even know about. A lot of people in this community had no idea. They're like, what do you mean they're putting 1,500 homes? I'm like, yeah, it's a Hayden Canyon thing. Strayhorn's gonna connect over to the Rim Rock and all that stuff. People don't even know that. So we don't even know what that impact's gonna be when everybody's trying to go down Lancaster to get onto government. The woman spoke earlier. That's just gonna be 1,500 times 2. That's 3,000. If they have kids, that's 4,000. Please, I'm asking you to table this proposal until we have more information and research can be gathered about the already proposed projects that will have a great impact on our lives going forward. Let's keep Hayden a place that is so desired to live here. We don't want it to turn to Hayden, and we don't want to turn Hayden into urban sprawl. And just so you know, the 3-acre buffer is a buffer to buffer the woodman. It's not a buffer to protect wildlife and trees because it's right on Mimosa, which he'd be blocked off from all the construction that we've been dealing with for 2 years on Hayden Canyon and the dust and everything else. So it's not like a buffer that's going around, it's buffering Mimosa, which goes to his house behind that. A lot of the neighbors were saying he'll probably just, this will go through, he'll sell, and then whoever buys it will subdivide the other 12 acres, and then that'll be toast. And all the trees will come down, then all the trees that we have on our property that we love in Emerald Estates will basically crush our houses, for the most part, because trees protect trees, that's what they do. If you guys remember the whole government situation when they put the storage facility in there, those guys right there, I don't think they ever really recovered. Oh, 1 minute. I mean, they crushed their house because there was no trees to protect it. So I'm asking for your consideration. Let's keep Hayden a place that everybody wants to come to. Maybe buy a used house. I don't know. That's just my thought. At least to the point where we can find out what all these other, what the other impact is gonna have with all the other developments that have been approved. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Jordan Kinchelo? Against? Kinchelo? Did I pronounce that right? Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan Kinchlow. Wife and I live at 190 East Viceroy. We are here tonight to, show our voices against this proposed development. We have a number of concerns, a couple of which are outlined in these standards here. First one would be, the safety and welfare of the public in this area. With these new developments that have already come up on the corner here between Government and Lancaster and across Lancaster, there's been a number of added traffic, number of new cars. The infrastructure that's currently in place does not really support the amount of people that are driving down those streets. And from what I'm understanding of this presentation, instead of maybe, kind of splitting some of the load between Lancaster and Government, it's now being forced all directly onto Government and through this new community that my wife and I purchased in. It's our first home. We're very happy to be there. And there are a number of families in this community with children who play in the yards. The yards are very small. So there's a number of cars that drive through there and just pushing those traffic concerns just into another neighborhood without maybe using a different entrance that would be a hindrance to the property owners. I can't seem to get behind that personally. Second thing is kind of piggybacking off of this other gentleman's comments. The 3 acres that's, being proposed to, keep the green space, to keep the trees. We all want to live in a community that's wooded. It's one of the reasons that we all live here. And I do not believe, from my understanding of this presentation, that the property owners are having any consideration for the other residents in this community, and instead taking the trees from our side and keeping them only on their side. For one, we love to keep, the flow of groundwater, kind of maintained between the neighborhoods instead of keeping everything flowing one direction. but also visually. We would love, the visual appeal that these trees offer and that offers our property values as well. We all love to live here, and those trees going is something that really hurts to hear. So those are my comments. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrea Leckie. She is against the proposal.
Hi, I am Andrea Leckie. That was my husband. So we both live at 190 East Viceroy in the Hayden Canyon Lennar development. Just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to come to you today with community concern, because I think that it's important that we are all heard. There's kind of two major components, and I've been taking notes throughout the evening. The first one I want to bring up is similar to what my husband said regarding traffic and safety. So, heard that perhaps the Woodmans would prefer that the road or traffic flow doesn't, border their property. And while that is great, I'm not sure that I understand how the preferences of one family supersedes the safety of all of these other homes in this community. And as you heard tonight from Olson Engineering, these lots are going to be larger. And I'm so grateful that there are gorgeous homes that could be coming somewhere nearby. But what I'm really concerned about, truly, is that this is disproportionately the traffic flow proposed on Viceroy and San Myrtle will disproportionately affect some of us who have the smallest lots. So just for context, these people don't have yards at all, right? They're townhomes, no yards. This is where my husband and I live, and there's another row of what we call cottages on San Myrtle here. And we all have some of the smallest yards in this community, which means that our kids are disproportionately playing like in the front yard. And I understand that every community is going to say, like, there's kids here. Like, there truly is kids here, and they're frequently on these streets, whether they're riding the bikes or just playing in the front. So I want to make sure that that is kind of known as someone who does maybe not live in this development. So the true entry points are going to be based right here, leading into this community. And I understand, and I've heard today that the preference is not to annex land when there perhaps is another entry point. And I understand that that would be preferred most of the time, but I think that there is a reasonable request here that we can ask that that be assessed, right? If there is a safer traffic option to enter into this subdivision, then pushing additional traffic through this community that will disproportionately affect young homeowners with young families, I think it's worth a request for that to be assessed, even if that doesn't include some sort of annexation to develop another road. So that was my first on traffic and safety. I did also want to flag too, like Olson Engineering claimed that, the development would improve vehicular safety because it is rounding out these dead ends right here. But as you can imagine, we already have an increased flow of traffic through this area, and with those dead ends, it's a little quieter over there versus like driving more traffic into it, right? So I would stand to disagree with that. For the second part, I wanted to discuss the tree lines. So Olson Engineering has advised many times during the presentation tonight that only 60% of the parcel is going to be developed and there's 40% that's being preserved, and that is wonderful. But that is to the benefit of only the people who live in these very large lots or the woodmen, right? No one else is going to be benefiting from this tree line here. So what I'm proposing, I think, is fair. I would like to hold additional land here on this back line for trees to be preserved.
Chair Taylor, could you ask her to use the mouse to point with so that we can catch her up on the microphone?
I can do that. So here, this is Burdock Lane right here, and there's homes right here. There is currently a buffer of just like a little bit of grasslands, but there's certainly very large trees that are back there. So what I would propose is perhaps that the developer push back the road a little bit. Perhaps the, the green space on this side is reduced a little bit to ensure that there's green space here. I think this is a reasonable proposal because it would benefit both communities. They could then sell these lots here with having a wooded view, and this community benefits as well by not having clear cut. I think that's a mutually beneficial solution, and proposal that I would love to be considered. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, I just want to make sure that the preserved space is not exclusively benefiting those of wealthier means, and that it's benefiting truly the whole community. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Thiessen, wish to speak? Against?
Hello, my name is Matt Thiessen. I live on Viceroy as well, 230 Viceroy. I won't take up too much of your time because I think we're all here for the same reason. You didn't get anyone who's really for this. You got everyone who's against it. This is a pretty new community, so I kind of just prepared something small to say. And I understand money talks, so I understand that the subdivision will probably proceed. However, I earnestly request an alternative entrance be considered. We chose to live here of all places because of the natural beauty that surrounds us and because of the safety it offers our children. It's especially concerning that there, on one of these streets, are no stop signs at this time. And so just by rounding it out, you're gonna have people who are learning to drive on these streets. You're gonna have people that are backing up government, trying to cross. When I take government and I slow down, they cross over the line to get around me. And that's just looking for, you know, oncoming traffic problems. That should be considered, but they talk about that they're going to preserve certain trees, and while preserving the trees within the new development is a good step, it does nothing to preserve the natural beauty or integrity of our current community. We all just moved here recently, and we liked what we saw, and no one was going to say, hey, take a picture, it'll last longer. So an alternative entrance, perhaps even one added on an access easement, could greatly benefit both the safety of our children who play in this area and the preservation of the trees that currently contribute to the beauty and value of our homes. What's proposed right here, right now, greatly affects the health, safety, and welfare of our existing community. And that's pretty much what I got.
Thank you. Louise O'Brien, and she's speak against. You have very nice handwriting, Louise.
36 years ago, I sat where you're sitting. I moved to Emerald Estates. I was a woman Marine. My husband, 20 years, Air Force. His calf of his leg was ripped off for you people. He has had one kidney removed for you people. He is now serving double lung cancer for you people. After the military, we moved to Idaho Falls. We served the state of Idaho. I was a deputy sheriff in Idaho Falls for 15 years. We served your people. I think we deserve some peace. And back of me were beautiful trees. I thought we finally have peace, but we didn't. They moved it, removed all the trees. It looks like Arizona. People coming down that road can look, we can't even go on our deck. My husband can't even sit on the deck and enjoy his retirement. All the trees have been removed. The turkeys, we have fed them over the winter because the snow and ice, there was nothing for them to eat. The deer have come down. We feed them too. I am proud of serving this country. My husband is proud of serving this country. I think we deserve our peace. I've been waiting for them to clean up the frapping mess in my backyard so my husband can go out there and enjoy the beautiful scenery of Idaho. But what do we have? Debris from the construction people, piles of dirt and rubble right in our backyard. We can't even use our backyard. So when you vote for your development, here I am, over 2.5 years with nothing.
You will finally walk in my steps. I love you people. We have served you. We love Idaho. And I ask you, in the name of America, vote with your heart.
Steen Rasmussen, would like to speak, is against.
May I speak for the Klings? Is that okay? Yeah.
Fun.
Pardon me?
May I speak for the Klings? They've asked me to speak for them. Is that okay?
Yeah, just provide their full names and their location.
Oh, sure.
Are they adding their time to you, or?
I'll just speak
you-
on their behalf, if that's right, for the 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So their name's Kevin and Emily Kling at 761 East Burdock Loop. And they've written a letter here, and they say,
And what is your name again?
Steen Rasmussen,
Thank
and
you.
I'm at 779 East Burdock Loop.
Thank you.
We believe in this board's commitment to responsible growth. We're asking you to either deny this subdivision or require a 100-foot forested buffer along the shared boundary. Not to stop the development, but to ensure it is done in a way that honors Hayden's values. First, I know you take legal obligations seriously. The 2009 annexation agreement requires a transportation analysis for any development over 2 units per acre. This project proposes 2.32 units per acre, yet no analysis has been provided. I trust you'll uphold these binding agreements and protect our community's infrastructure. Second, I know you believe in Hayden's comprehensive plan. You've thoughtfully crafted goals to make Hayden special. Goal 5 promises to preserve and strengthen existing neighborhoods. I know you want to honor that commitment to families like mine. Goal 14 pledges to be stewards of natural areas. I believe you understand that destroying 6 acres of mature forest contradicts this vision you've worked hard to create. Most importantly, your plan wisely seeks to avoid wall-to-wall development. Look at what's happening. Development to the west, commercial growth to the north. This is the last natural break. I trust you see how preserving it maintains the character that drew us to Hayden. Third, this buffer serves everyone's interests. Idaho Fish and Game have given you excellent guidance about preserving mature timber. These trees don't just benefit wildlife, they protect all our properties from stormwater damage, maintain peaceful transitions between neighborhoods, preserve the natural beauty that enhances everyone's quality of life, demonstrate Hayden's commitment to thoughtful planning. When my family bought our home last year, we paid $15,000 premium specifically for the wooded backdrop. While we embrace responsible development, I know you understand the importance of protecting our homes and maintaining the character of established neighborhoods. I believe you want Hayden to be a model for responsible growth. You have the opportunity tonight to show what Hayden doesn't just approve maximum density by default, but requires development that enhances our community. Every future developer will see your wisdom in requiring thoughtful transitions between neighborhoods, meaningful preservation of natural areas, and respect for existing homeowners. I'm confident you'll either deny this application or mandate these reasonable conditions. 100-foot forested buffer on the western boundary, reduce density to 1.5 units per acre, permanent conservation easements, and/or protected stormwater management. This isn't about being anti-development, it's about the excellence in planning that I know you strive for.
1 minute.
Your comprehensive plan beautifully articulates Hayden's vision for preserving our small town feel and natural areas. I trust you'll transform those words into action tonight. I believe you'll make the right choice, one that protects existing neighborhoods while allowing responsible growth. That's the kind of leadership that makes Hayden extraordinary. Thank you for your service to our community and for your thoughtful consideration tonight. From Kevin and Emily Kling. Thank you.
Thank you. And Carson Rasmussen?
Good evening. My name is Carson Rasmussen. I live on Burdock Loop in Hayden Canyon. I'm coming to you tonight as a neighbor, a mother, and a proud member of this community who also serves this community. I want to express my opposition to the Woodman subdivision. We moved to Hayden, back to Commitee County, because it offered what most of us came here for, the Idaho dream. Forested views, quiet streets, accessible nature, and genuinely just incredible people. We decided to move to Hayden of all places because we read and actually believed in Hayden's 2040 comprehensive plan, which emphasized responsible growth, the preservation of open space, and maintaining community integrity. The proposed subdivision jeopardizes that vision for multiple reasons. First, I believe there's infrastructure and safety deficiencies. Hayden Canyon is already facing major mold and drainage issues that I'm not sure if this council is aware of. It's creating really hazardous conditions for families to live in their current homes and for the homes and the foundations themselves. I think under Standards of Approval Procedure 18, I think that the failure to acknowledge and create a better solution for the problems that are occurring in Hayden Canyon means that they're going to continue in this Woodman subdivision as well. The developer already addressed the sewer capacity. I would just ask that it does violate Standard of Approval 3, approving it prior to the completion of that sewer basin. In regards to traffic, there will be 22 to 44 vehicles daily driving down that street. This is already a very highly traveled street due to the density of our community, and a lot of those homes don't have any backyards, which means the children do play in the street. And I would say that there are more than 100 young children in our community alone who have to play on the street. And like the previous speaker, it does feel like, you know, almost like the 80s, where we're out there and the kids are riding their bikes and they're just being kids. I would ask that this council look at the procedures regarding procedure 1, 18, and 19, and look at the entrance point to this community. Secondly, I think there's a lack of parks and green spaces. The subdivision includes no green space, no trails, no gathering areas. What's gonna happen is these new residents, the new 23 homes, are gonna be forced to use our green spaces that they've put in, what minimal they did put in, and that we pay for and maintained by the HOA. Some of us pay up to $170 a month just to have those green spaces. They're gonna have no buy-in to keep them clean, free from unwanted activities, free from vicious dogs. They're not going to have any other place to go though, besides the area that we pay for and maintain. So I would ask that they need to have their own area that they can access, that they're going to pay for and have some buy-in for, instead of using the area that we provide. They will have no other choice because the 4 acres that's remaining is going to be private property. Third, environmental and visual harm. The Idaho Department of Fish and Game recommended preserving mature trees, but I don't see a preservation plan submitted regarding the development, which I think was kind of addressed. That's kind of up in the air. So I would ask that trees do need to remain to embody what Hayden really feels. The homes on Kelly Ray, the homes on Emerald, the homes on Amethyst, they have these beautiful trees that remain. Look at our neighborhood and just understand we have wind problems, we have all sorts of issues, and we made a little bit of a mistake there, I think. We need to have that natural buffer to help with wildlife corridors and habitat. It's going to expose our homes to the damaging wind, that the major windstorms we get every few years, and cause livability issues. You're going to reduce our property values. A lot of us paid $5,000 to $15,000 more to have these homes backed up to the trees that, yes, I know are not ours. I understand that. And they made a very smart investment, and it's their property. But this is Hayden's vision as a whole, and I think knocking down that forest does not comply with that. I think it decreases our home values and the character and enjoyment of our neighborhood, and I think you will see people move away. So I respectfully ask that this council deny the subdivision altogether, but I'm not naive. I don't think that will happen. If it must be approved, require drainage, sewer, and traffic be addressed, require some type of green space or a buffer between the two subdivisions, or maybe a park. We don't have any parks that are in safe walking distance. 20 to 30 minutes, no sidewalks on Government and Lancaster, major issues. Preserve the old growth tree line to the west and south borders to help maintain the character and the feel of the neighborhood. Because I think that this violates goals 3, 5, 9, 11, 13, 14, 18, and 19 of our 2040 comprehensive plan, if you really look at those goals. And then relocate the entrance as well, which I think would help our subdivision. The Woodman subdivision in its current form threatens Hayden's identity, and unchecked growth is going to cost us what makes our community special. So ask yourselves, is this the Hayden we envision in the 2040 plan? Is this the Idaho dream? I respect your time and thank you for your commitment to responsible growth. And if I could address the petition. The petition that was submitted. I did submit that. The main goal of that is just 99% of those signatures are just the immediate surrounding community. I just want everybody to be aware that that is just this community, and we don't want to have to deal with what we've been dealing with. Thank you.
Applicant. Rebuttal. That is it.
I think one last call. Is there
Anyone else like to offer any testimony at this time?
You need to fill out a slip in that. You want to make your comment first and then fill out the slip at front.
Hi, I'm Joni Young. I live at 12492 North Emerald Drive, which is the horseshoe part of Emerald Drive. And I have lived in that house since 1998. It took me 3 years for my sons and I to find a house in Coeur d'Alene when we moved up here in 1995. When we moved there, I'm a single mom, was a single mom. Both my boys have kids, and my grandkids all love to come to my house. But when we moved there, we were able to, my boys were able to go into the bear trails. We were able to go for our walks and see all the flowers and the different habitat that is unique to our area, and enjoy that. And I understand that progress that we need to be able to expand, but after dealing with what's going on the ridge and all the impact of what that has maintained, I mean, we no longer are going to be able to see the moose come down because of what was done to the wetlands up in that area. And even then, seeing what's going on, you know, who's going to be able to build there, because wetlands are going to be wetlands. And there's always going to be water coming down off of there. All the birds that migrate to and from Canada and down from Mexico, they come through our neighborhood because we had all the trees, and we'd get so many different kinds of birds and coming through the neighborhood. This last 10 years, we've been able to enjoy in my own backyard, our own backyard. We've had an eagle family up having an eagle's nest, and they've come back every year and had their families there. Well, this year, because of all the stuff going up on the ridge, they came here for about a week or two trying to see if they can have their nest, but they are no longer there. They are no longer having their families here. And I mean, they may be selfish on my part or our community's part that we want that, but that's what when we moved here, we had all those things, you know, to enjoy. And some of us, you know, me being a single mom, I worked 3 jobs just to maintain the house and have a home that my sons could go and do, like the families that are in the new subdivision can afford to have their kids be able to roam and play in their own yards and own communities and streets and play kick the can or baseball or whatever, without having to worry about traffic or, you know, just know that they are safe. And since we've had all the new subdivisions come around us, it's not always been safe. And I know that progress is progress. I mean, I still remember when my sons complained that nobody wanted to come out to our house because it's too far away. And we're considered rural, and we want to keep it that way. We don't want to be part of the city. If we don't, you know, we like the ambiance of being able to just be in a safe place. And, you know, it's sad because when we first moved in this house, for the first 5, 10 years, we could sit in the backyard on an evening in the summer or even night. We can hear the coyotes barking or communicating with the other dens. We could see the Milky Way. Not anymore. You know, so thankfully we still have the owls. But those are the small enjoyment that we have to love about living in this area. And I just respectfully ask that you just take some high consideration of what the value of this is. I get it that you want to have, you know, build the property. I would say take that property and make it just, put a little park in there, but make it so other people can enjoy it around you, that we can go to that and walk it like it was the bear trails before. That would be my suggestion. Thank you for your time.
No one else would like to add any testimony at this time? I will have our rebuttal from the applicant.
I'm gonna actually have Ian talk for a little bit, and then he'll hand it over to me for some of the specifics.
Ian Woodman, 12398 Mimosa Lane. Hello, everyone. I'm Ian Woodman. My wife and I are the owners of the parcel being subdivided. My wife Becky and I have heard all the concerns regarding the tree removal and other issues on the 10-acre parcel, and we'd love to clarify our values regarding this. We live directly east of this proposed subdivision on a parcel that we developed for ourselves. When we built our home, we made the choice to save over 80% of the trees, even though we could have formed 30 additional lots. And that does include putting our house in the middle of the property. When we came in here and talked, and there was future plans, and they wanted us to scoot our house 150 feet to the left for future development. But we still wanted to put our house in the middle to preserve all those trees and the one lot. We bought the proposed property in hopes that we would never have to develop it and be able to leave it as is forever. Unfortunately, in this economy, our 4 adult children and 3 grandchildren can't afford a home of their own. Now, as part of this new project, we are preserving another 3.82 acres of forested land and keeping all those trees, while also providing an opportunity for us to create homes for our children and their growing families. We are committed to maintaining the natural beauty of the area and being thoughtful with any additional tree removal as the subdivision develops. We are not outsiders. We live here too. I've lived here for nearly 30 years, and my wife was born and raised in this area. We love our neighborhood, and we care just as much as anyone about preserving Idaho's natural beauty. Just wanted to also address a couple of the things that people mentioned. People have mentioned a 30-foot or 100-foot buffer from Hayden Canyon to us. There is a 30-foot buffer already, and we were told that 30-foot buffer that is just grass with newly planted trees did have fully grown trees on it, and it was going to stay. Hayden Canyon did tear those down and put grass in, or else there would be already a buffer for everyone in Hayden Canyon. And I would like to say that the amount of trees that came down to build all those homes on both sides was so many more than we're digging down for the 6 acres right here. We have no plans on ever developing the 12 acres. I know, Scott, you mentioned that how can we trust you that you would ever do that? Well, that's why we put the house in the middle. So we wouldn't have to ever develop it. We want to leave all the trees. I really think saying that we are wealthy getting wealthier, I mean, if we were wealthy getting wealthier, we would put 66 homes in here like the previous owners were about to do before Hayden Canyon went in. then there would be no trees at all left in this area right here. Yes, Scott, we did talk about preserving that. We did, you're right. And our goal was to save that property forever. But times do change, and I apologize. Once we knew that sewer was coming in there.
No, when I asked you, I said they built, you
we-
built it back there. You said
Not a
it.
dialogue.
Okay, sorry.
Please
I
address
wanted
your
to-
comments to the commission.
And about the access to Mimosa Lane, there are easements in place that have been in place for a very long time. We cannot put another access to Mimosa Lane due to these easements. Or our driveway becomes a public road, and that just doesn't seem fair to us. That's, I do think that we're being punished a little bit for how much growth Hayden Canyon has added to this area. We're putting in 22 homes, and there's just so much dwellings in there, and they're not single-family homes either. I'm just curious if everyone was in here protesting all those trees when all those went in, when those houses were going in, the houses that people were moving here to buy. So I just want you to know a little bit about us, that we're not confrontational. We're doing the best we can. In our lifetime, we plan on living there with that buffer. I get it, it's still a buffer for us, but it also is a buffer for 9 more homes. Bill's home on the corner in Emerald Estates, 3 more homes off of Lancaster have shared that buffer as well. And that's really all I have.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Ian. I'm gonna try to hit on some of the additional items brought up by the public that Ian has not already talked about, so. Concern about traffic. Traffic is a citywide issue. This is, there we go. So yes, as I mentioned, there will be traffic that will be coming through these public streets and accessing government, coming up to Lancaster and hitting 95 to go to all these locations. That's the reason that we have impact fees. There's an impact fee study, as you guys know, that goes and looks at what improvements need to be done and assesses a fee to each lot to cover their impact. So I think they're doing what they're required to do. A little bit of mention about more studies and comprehensive plans. They've been done. You have a 2040 comprehensive plan, you have wastewater plan, you have a transportation plan. This project is putting less density in this area than was envisioned by those plans. That's the reason why staff didn't feel it was appropriate or necessary to require a specific traffic impact analysis. Because it's already been studied, and as a result, those impact fees have been developed. So in my opinion, it would be a wasted exercise. Generally, those look at intersections that are close to the project, because those are what's most impacted. And as Donna mentioned, those intersections they're built out right now. So I as an engineer and hearing about the cost to develop, the cost to build, I am sensitive when people are asking for the developer to spend more money. That just increases how much they're putting into and how much has to be made in order to make a profit. Let me see. Somebody mentioned vehicular safety. I agree. There was a statement there that said that we were quoting in the comp plan about vehicular safety. I'm not saying that this project is increasing vehicular safety. I think what we were pointing at in that statement is that we were adding pedestrian connectivity. Let's see. There was some mentions about max density and max money. Clearly, that's not the case here. They're developing 30% of their overall holdings in this area. Yeah, Ian mentioned why impose a buffer on him? That's gonna be, that would be another thing that increased costs. It's lengthening the roads and all the utilities, adding to the city's burden of maintaining those. And Hayden Canyon is a PUD. PUDs have to have buffers around their entire project for the benefit of the PUD. So I don't see a need for additional buffers. There's no need or no requirement in city code to do that. Also, as far as parkland goes, it's not, there used to be a requirement in code where larger subdivisions had to build a park. And we just can't have parks everywhere. That's not the way the Parks and Rec, they're not set up to maintain a park in every subdivision. So that's another reason we have the impact fees, is to pay for the parks. There's a large park being planned in Hayden Canyon. There's also a park, 5+ acre park requirement for Mark's Ranch, just to the northeast. Let's see if I covered everything that I wrote down previously. Sorry, I'm scrambling for my notes. Okay, this project meets the standard of approval, in my opinion. Standards of approval for subdivision, including the comp plan and the portions of the comp plan that talk about preservation of open space. This is not something that is typically scrutinized to this level, e.g. Hayden Canyon First Edition. But even with scrutiny, the Woodmans are going above and beyond with the low magnitude of this development. The city annexed this property 16 years ago. They had to know it would be developed. This is about the lowest impact development that could reasonably be envisioned by somebody to occur on these properties. Questions from anybody?
Anyone have a question?
I have one. And this, I don't know if this is the right spot, but is there anywhere in the Hayden Canyon that made it, that says there wouldn't be any through traffic on these streets and on that plat? Or was it originally set up as a cul-de-sac of some sort for those that were buying on there? Or did it look just like it did with a dead end to it?
So the streets were ended in anticipation of going east.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Any questions? Lot 23, is that specified in the plat that it's open space, or is it just identified as a lot?
I think the only thing that's there right now is condition 12, standard of condition that we have to submit a preservation plan for that. But I don't think there's a condition, correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, that says that nobody can build on that lot. It's not their intention, and the most that anybody could build there, if it was a buildable lot, would be one lot without coming back in front of you guys for another subdivision.
Can you point out lot 23?
Big lot.
Just the big
one,
area?
Yeah.
And can you restate that?
Yes.
Sorry.
There's, the Woodmans do not intend to develop this lot. If it were to be developed, the maximum density there would be one house without another subdivision. And condition of approval number 12 speaks to maintenance of maintaining vegetation.
And then also,
overall for the project.
and there's conditions too, that it can't go through Mimosa it can't connect to Lancaster, it can't connect to Mimosa, is that correct?
I don't believe there is a condition that says, there's not a specific condition there, but there's a lot, so there's no, there's no way to make that connection without coming into you guys for a subdivision of this lot.
Okay, because I thought I saw something in the conditions of approval stating that there was to be no connection to Lancaster, no through traffic on Mimosa.
Is there?
That's
That is
correct.
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
I was
That's,
mistaken.
That is the case.
that's a condition of approval? Okay, all right. I don't think I have any further questions.
So your public, close your public hearing.
The public hearing is now closed. The commissioners will now discuss our next action.
You may want to take a 5-minute recess.
Would you like us to take a recess? We're gonna take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll get back to the deliberation.
back on air.
Okay, we are back in session. Please have a seat if you'd like to listen to our deliberations.
Do you have a gavel?
Would you like me to gavel?
Yes, please.
There we go.
It's there for.
Come on. Gavel guy, you know?
Come on, Sean, you can do it.
Shocking, but yeah. So I should ask you guys before we went to break, but would you like to deliberate? Schedule for another date?
Vote?
Or,
I want to talk.
okay, let's do it then. Okay.
So, when we were first being told about the buffer between, canyon and stuff, I was thinking, yeah, that would be nice, but when any of us goes to buy a piece of property, we can look at what the city will allow us to do and what they won't allow us to do before, and whether our realtor lies to us or not, if there's a stub going into trees, that's gonna eventually be developed and that road's gonna go through. And so, my heart goes out to anybody who's told these trees are gonna stay there and you're paying extra for the lot. But the developer was the one that cut those trees down. There were supposed to be 30 feet of trees there. And that's what was supposed to be the buffer. And that's part of the standards of approval. Did I miss anything? Do I understand that correctly?
So yeah, so when the PUD was approved, a PUD does have to have a buffer around the entire thing.
And we're talking about canyon.
And that's Hayden Canyon. Now, this is not a PUD, it's just a straight subdivision because they're within the code for what the lots can be, so they're not having to ask for anything different.
Right.
So I don't believe there's any landscape requirements on the border, no.
Okay. So, I guess my further thoughts were, these lots are really big compared to what they could be. And I'm always grateful, because I live in this neighborhood, I'm grateful that bigger lots go in than smaller because it means less traffic. And without infringing on the rights of, you have to consider the rights of the people in both lots that are on either side of the border. And so, yeah, I like the view that I have from my house. I wasn't really excited when a whole bunch of trees got cut down that made the view not as nice. But the only thing I could have done is go buy that land and leave the trees up myself. I don't have the right to tell that guy, hey, I can build a house and knock the trees down on my place, but you can't do it on yours. So, I missed anything there? Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I think, as someone who's lived here well over 30 years and felt the impacts of the growth and the traffic, my street, Strayhorn is very impacted by everything that's going on to the north. It's good and bad, I guess, but it is our city and it is growing. And again, I think first thing that I'm looking at is it does seem to meet, unless I'm missing something, all our standards of approval that I'm aware of. And I feel like the developers are going out of their way to keep a lot of wooded and land. And I also, that was my question about Hayden Canyon, if there wasn't anything there originally that said these streets would not continue at some point, they're the most logical. To even try and have access on Lancaster would mean basically access on a hill, which would be very dangerous for people coming in and out. So with Hayden Canyon being there now, whether we're all happy with it or not, this would be the most logical place to access. But I do understand people that live on that street who have kids and don't want that, because I have similar concerns with my own street. So And I do like the larger lot sizes, because that's just, you know, if it's 23, you know, it's that, we could have 66 being talked about right now, I believe, or something close to that on that same piece of ground, so. Again, I feel for all sides, but it seems like it meets most of the requirements that I'm aware of. David?
Yeah, I sympathize definitely with the families that want to have a safe environment for their kids playing outdoors. And, you know, from other developments going in, one of my questions that I've always raised is there a park going in? You know, what's being done to allow for people to go on a walk and hang out in a park for their kids to safely play, et cetera. And unfortunately, there isn't one in Hayden Canyon right there. But I was just talking with Joel, that big park that's going in. Are we allowed to talk about that or mention the?
Hayden Canyon Planned Unit Development has an 18 acre park.
Just north of there, right?
North of this, that's why they actually have that crossing.
Right.
Across Lancaster for
Yeah.
that location.
Yeah, so that's,
That was mentioned earlier, and Mark's Ranch has a park that was also mentioned earlier.
right. Yeah, so.
For this project as well, which is actually.
Yeah, so when looking at what the standards are and looking at the way that the owner could have stretched everything out to make as much money as possible, that's not what's happening here. And yeah, I think weighing all sides, you know, I understand the concern, but I see the logic in the way that the streets are being routed. I do think that there should be some consideration for, and this would be a future issue, but for stop signs or roundabouts along government to protect people trying to enter and exit from all the communities going up and down that corridor. That can be figured out at a later time, but for this specific subdivision, in my mind, it exceeds the standards of approval.
I think it meets standards of approval. I appreciate the larger lot sizes because that looks to me like a lower density than the actual Hayden Canyon development there on the corner.
Right.
I like that things will be tied through and around instead of just dead-ended, you know, into nothingness. I look at this neighborhood that's being proposed compared to the Hayden Canyon neighborhood. And I think back to just a few years ago when I used to work at a school north of this area. And I used to drive by that plot, which is now the Hayden Canyon, that neighborhood there. And I used to drive by it and see a whole bunch of trees. And then I saw them all get cut down and that whole area get developed. And it kind of takes me back to when I moved here 8 years ago from a place that shall not be mentioned. And every car that I saw and a U-Haul that was moving here, I thought I'd shake my fist and think, not after me. But I kind of think of this as the same thing, like that development was just put in the last few years, and now same thing is being done to a new development. But I think it's just the way that this is going, but this is a landowner's property that he wishes to do with as he pleases. And I think the family's being considerate with what they're doing, whereas they could go in and just put in a bunch of condos, they could ask for a zone change, they could make this apartments or something else. They could be a little bit ludicrous with it if they wanted to. But I think that doing, 22 or 23 homes on it is very reasonable. And I like this more than annexing more than we can chew and trying to develop more than we can to and stretch our resources further out into the county. So this already being part of the city and this being a homeowner's land, I think this is a better choice than trying to bite off more than we could chew. Anyway, long story short, I think this definitely meets the standards of approval, and that's it.
Donna, can I ask you a quick question? Is that allowed? I was trying to find it on the future transportation plan. Is there any plan for an upgrade of the four-way stop at Lancaster and Government?
So Lancaster and Government Way is a project that is both in, I think it's in the impact fee identified, but it's also a project that is under part of the Hayden Canyon subdivision phasing, and their transportation impact analysis that they're required to do is mitigate that intersection.
So as future
as
phases
well.
of Hayden Canyon come in, they will then upgrade that intersection? Would that be correct? And impact fees probably from this subdivision would they go towards that?
Potentially.
Can't say.
Impact fees go into the overall,
Well,
the
big
entirety of
pot.
the system.
Right.
So
Don't they have to
aren't
be used in areas that
designated.
are impact? Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay.
Because it's the impact on the entire system that is being
Mitigated
compensated for,
throughout.
not just the geographic location.
Okay. Yeah, because as I look at this, I think, my question's relating back earlier to the Mimosa, because you have the Emerald Estates, which is an established subdivision, which is in the county, and I don't know, that would be my other question, can we do improvements along roads that front county front land?
They don't, this property doesn't have any, they don't have any frontage except the actual frontage along Mimosa, that's the street.
It's a private easement.
Right, so there's, that's out of the Emerald Estates, whichever one is directly south of them. Coming into the property to the south, and then the area that goes out up to Lancaster, that's in the county.
That's in the county, okay.
Those parcels are all in the county. Fronting Lancaster, and it's an easement. They don't have any frontage at all on Lancaster as part of this project.
Can I ask Donna a question?
Sure.
Getting back to the speeds, safety on government, if there are numerous concerns coming from a community and they're hoping for some sort of adjustment, whether it be a roundabout, that sort of thing, what would be the steps of seeing if that's something that can be presented to the city?
Not all of Government Way from Buckles to Bakel is owned by the city. A portion of Government Way is owned by the city, which is where you have city on both sides of the road.
Yeah.
And the remainder of it is in Lakes Highway District today. So the speeds that are along the road from Buckles north are predominantly not set by the city of Hayden today.
Got it. So like that intersection at Bakel, if there was a petition or somebody wanted to address that potentially, it wouldn't be with the city of Hayden?
Correct.
At that intersection?
Correct.
Got it.
So, I mean, anybody that had a question about the speed can totally come into the city and we can address that on a case-by-case basis. If it's not us, we would send them to Lakes.
Got it.
Yeah, so I think from what I'm hearing, then is you feel that the standards of approval have been met, transportation issues with the loop is the least impactful routing there.
I think it's also the least impactful to the natural vegetation. I mean,
The buffer, the 4 acres. And,
yeah, I mean, it's the least amount of road that has to be developed. And there's
maintained by the city.
Yeah, it's maintained by the city, and there's three outlets, including one, is that a stoplight or a stop sign right there on Lancaster? Yeah, so, yeah, and it's not on an incline or anything like that.
And, and I do, in looking at this, you know, the addition of 3.89 acres. Now, I know they've said that they don't intend to develop it, but they would have to come back for another subdivision request in order to do that, so it would get another look if anything in the future were to happen, so I think that wooded area will still be able to be seen from the surrounding areas as a good buffer. And I noticed the lots to the south end of the subdivision fronting Emerald are much deeper. And typically on a deeper lot, you would probably leave some more trees on those, so that should hopefully create a little bit more of a buffer for Emerald, which is a more established neighborhood, and those trees are all, 20, 30 years old in there. Hopefully, these new subdivisions plant enough trees that they look like that in 20 or 30 years. You have to have a little bit of thought for the future, but does anybody care to make a motion at this time?
I would make a motion to approve. I move to recommend approval of PZE 25-0043 Woodman subdivision request with recommended conditions of approval, finding that it is in accord with the standards of Hayden City Code based upon testimony received at the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing and the record of the request.
I'll second.
Motion, we have a second. Roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Erickson,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gibson,
Aye.
and Chair Taylor.
Aye. Motion passes. We will recommend approval to the city. And for those folks that are here tonight, this is the first step. We're just recommending approval to the city council. We'll now go before the city council for their deliberations. So you will have another opportunity to speak if you so choose. We're just going to continue on with our regular business here now, so you're free to leave if you'd like.
When will that meeting be?
It's not scheduled yet.
There'll be a notification, and they have to go through the same notification process
And
as
just
we
for
do.
clarity, these applications are not required a second public hearing at city council. Or it would normally just be a review of this record, and then they would deliberate and make a decision. But given the community's interest in this, I think it's best for the process. We'll recommend to city council that it be a public hearing.
Donna, do we have a director's report?
A couple. I don't know.
Better than I thought.
Because it's a fairly reasonable proposal.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Have a good night. Not only that, but I think irony is lost on me.
We need to have a written report.
For, like you mentioned,
Well, let's give them a minute or two to get down.
brand new community.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you not aware of your
In the hall, please.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate you. And there's something you want to know.
Ma'am, we're still holding the meeting.
Wait.
Thank you.
For those folks. Family has, do you know active paddleboard? They're still having a meeting. Okay. You did the stadium, how you. Thank you.
On July 15th, there's a report due to city council. That's a written report from the chair.
Oh, I get to do another report?
A written report.
Oh, I don't have to present it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll need that in,
I have homework?
yes.
And it should be fairly simple, because we didn't have meetings in June except for the workshop.
Oh, so I can say.
I mean, besides this one tonight.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, it needs to get
I will write that
into
up.
us so that they'll be in their council packets
Okay.
on their second meeting.
I will write that up.
Yeah, by the 15th.
Okay.
Send it to Shannon. And then you know, the workshop, we didn't quite finish with everything that we needed to cover at the workshop. So we are going to try to have another workshop at the conclusion of the city council meeting on the 22nd.
At the conclusion?
Right, so
You know
not
when that's gonna be?
before, but we're gonna do it after, so that if you guys are like, you know, really in good conversation, we don't have to cut you off in order to get to a city council.
22nd of,
July.
I don't think I'll be here. 22nd of July?
22nd of July.
Okay.
And I don't have an exact time, because I don't know what that
'Cause they don't
agenda
know how
looks
the-
like, and
right.
so we'll just bear
And the
with
hearing
us.
for, or their,
That is.
their meeting for this is, does it have to have a 30-day notification, or is it?
Who's meeting for what?
The meeting on the subdivision that we just recommended
It has
approval.
to have, the written recommendation comes back to you on the 21st.
Yep,
Then we'll notice it again for public hearing with the city council.
if they decide to
What
do
we're
it.
recommending. And then, so it'll probably go the second meeting in August,
Okay. So let's see if,
just from a timing
Yeah.
component.
So make sure that you're not communicating about this with anyone. You know, there's a lot of public interest. They may
Yeah.
try to reach out and have conversation. Just politely remind them that they're still in the public process and that you cannot communicate with them. Likewise, you can't have any conversation with any council members about what's coming to them. You just tell them if they shouldn't ask, but if they do, to just watch the,
so my report, I shouldn't talk about this.
no.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Active, open, yeah.
Okay.
The most you could say is that the planning and zoning recommended
Recommended approval.
approval of this application to city council, which will be heard
Okay,
likely the latter part of August.
okay.
That'd be the most.
And so then, just for calendar conversation, your meeting on the 21st has two public hearings at it, so you'll be getting those staff.
Get some more
reviews
practice.
for
Yeah, you could use,
watching
I'm
those.
gonna
use a
say,
little
I don't
practice.
know.
Yeah, it's a little rough
And
today.
then most likely we'll have, if we're not ready to go forward with the comp plan in the end of August, which is most likely when that will happen, assuming that the council then gets direction, we can finish up those red lines, finish with public participation. It'll either be the end of August or the first part of September.
I had
Assuming
I have a
that you can
question
move forward.
that followed our workshop. Did they have access to everything prior to that workshop? So there just, nothing was reviewed or talked about, they just waited until the meeting, city council?
They had all the same documentation that you had.
Is anybody not available on the 22nd of July?
21st?
22nd for that
It's a
workshop?
Tuesday?
For the workshop.
After the city council meeting. Well,
So you'll
first
have-
on the 21st.
Your meeting the 21st and then workshop the 22nd.
For the last 4 years, my company has a meeting every Tuesday night at 7:45. So I'm available up until about 7:30, but not after.
I think I am here for those, I have to leave on next week. I think I'm back for both Monday, Tuesday.
I am available.
Nice,
I'll be here.
awesome,
I believe I'll be here, yeah.
okay,
There we go.
perfect.
Like I said, keep feeding me, I'll keep coming back.
So next meeting's on the 21st
21st,
and then 22nd.
yes.
Oh, the weather's gonna be really good those 2 days, isn't it?
But we don't know the workshop time on the 22nd yet, right?
Are we what?
No,
our
it just
council
depends on
agenda
the
late for the
length of the agenda
Yep, I know.
for council.
And that kicks off at 5:30?
They start at 5.
They start at
They
5.
start at
For
5.
the workshop?
No,
Well,
No,
The
they
coun-
start
the
their
regular
council.
council meeting starts
sorry.
at 5, and then after the council agenda is completed, then we'll come back with,
We'll start the workshop.
thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. Long day.
we might
Want us
be
here
able
for the
to,
whole-
we might be able to gauge how long their meeting will
Based on
be
the agenda.
based on the
Once
agenda,
we
but-
know the agenda,
Yeah.
we'll be able to tell you what time to show up, unless you want to come for the whole thing.
Maybe.
If you want a little civics
You guys are very
lesson,
nice.
a little civics lesson, come and watch the city council in action. Okay. Is that all we have?
That's it.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned. There we go. Gavel.
Nice job.
7:40.